First off, we must remember that the prosecutor, what he says is not testimony. A lot of it is grandstanding. And the state must prove all of the elements that he showed us on the screen there beyond a reasonable doubt. According to the definition of threat, a communicated intent to inflict physical or other harm on any person or property. Communicated. That would mean that I communicated to the governor. I talked to the governor, or I talked to the legislature, or I talked to someone and actually threatened them. I never talked to anyone. I never threatened anyone. They've failed to prove that I've threatened anything. They seem to be relying on a trooper who could not even sustain his complaint this morning under cross-examination. They have a bunch of, they lump you in with a bunch of rough ideas of because someone says something, you're in with this group. They brought up my complaint. I implore you to read the complaint because they keep pulling out a writ or mandamus that's asking for things, but they're not telling you why we're asking for that. We show you in the complaint why we're asking for that. Constitutional violations. All we asked for was a return to the constitutional rule of the law. Not too much to ask for as people that live under the Constitution of this country. I don't have a problem with the Constitution. I have a problem when it's not obeyed. It's not obeyed. This is a government by, of, and for the people. And even our so-called rulers must follow the law. No one is above it. No one. Not even me. The original sworn complaint that started this entire matter, we went through this morning, and he was unable to come up with any facts other than it was just, he had seen it in the past. It was part of this group that did it. He never had any first-hand evidence or facts. It was all conjecture and unsupported. Yes, I did phone calls going back through May of last year. They were educational. They were what you would call brainstorming sessions. People would come to me and say, look, we have this problem in our area. What have you found about it? Because what I do is research laws. I study laws. They come directly from Congress, directly from the legislature. And we find out where things went wrong. Because when government's acting wrong, there's an act somewhere that they passed that was probably not constitutional that allows them to act that way. So we studied the law. We studied their case law. We found it. We presented it to them. There's nothing in there that is sovereign citizen in nature. As a matter of fact, my fellow friend today, Philip Hudak, a teacher for 40 years, signed on to this same complaint with me. A school teacher for 40 years. A retired postal worker, 72 years old, signed on to this complaint with me. Just because I'm 39 years old does not mean I'm a domestic terrorist. I love my country. I love my state. I love the kids of this country. And everything I've done since '07 has been to protect the children. Look on YouTube every day. You will see acts of violence committed by those in power against our children. And all we do is film it and post it. I took action and went to court. And then I went out and taught other people how to do it in other states. We do have the freedom of speech. Whether the government likes what we say or not, whether someone else likes what we say or not, it doesn't matter. We have the right to speak freely and clearly. And I fully intend to use every right that was given to me by God and constitutionally protected. And that's not a crime. It cannot be converted into a crime. That's the law. What is a threat? Okay? It's a communicated intent. They haven't proven that I've communicated any threat to anybody. What they prove is that I had people online with me that were from United States Special Forces militia, a nationwide militia of people just like you, just like me. They're people of this country, citizens, that see something wrong and want to know what it is and what they can do about it. Yes, they were brainstorming on what would happen if they went in and filed a complaint and the government did not change what they were doing wrong. Yes, and we had a discussion. We had several discussions actually with that group. I think several were not even recorded. And that was because they were scared of being recorded. I'm not. I put everything I've ever spoken about online. I did 4 or 5 months of training and education with people from across this nation, actually from across North America, because the problem is not just in our country, it is worldwide. It's worldwide. And sitting around watching TV, going to Facebook, does nothing to stop this. You know, my duty as a man of God is to protect the children and their future. And I will never apologize for that. Who is the victim in this matter? So far, they haven't brought forth a victim. We had Trooper Williams testify. We had another gentleman testify about some jail calls, and yet none of them claimed that they were victims, that I called and threatened them. For there to be a threat, there would have to be a victim. Why was this victim not on the stand? Where is the victim? I've never stated, and you did not hear me state in any of these calls, that I was a sovereign citizen or part of any sovereign citizen movement. They could not provide fact evidence of either when pressed on. Why would that be? He did not understand, nor could he give me the laws of sovereign nation. These are his words in his complaint to take away my liberty that he filed and swore to. But he couldn't explain it. He changed the times in which he downloaded calls. One day it was the 22nd, on the file it's saying the 17th. That's a serious problem. Even if the call is a true, accurate, and complete copy, he still lied about the day it was downloaded. Why are there all these inconsistencies by the main witness of the state? He stated that me filing a habeas corpus, a motion at law, into a court of the government that's operating here right now, state of West Virginia, and into a federal court, is what sovereign citizens do. So if any of you are arrested unlawfully and you're going to try to challenge it, don't file a habeas corpus. You're not allowed to. That makes no sense. It's insanity. That is the motion you go to. It's an ancient writ, as old as man himself, to set you free when you've been unlawfully imprisoned. It's a right you have to file. He said filing a lawsuit or complaint and not following the formatting. The formatting, a simple rule, not even a law, but a rule, is ludicrous, to say the least, that makes you a sovereign citizen. You can try to comply with a rule, but rules are words, and some people have a different interpretation of them. And so maybe the formatting was not all the way proper. They didn't reject it, they accepted it, they stamped it, it's filed, it's there. So it obviously wasn't a problem with the court, but it's a problem with him, and that makes me a sovereign citizen, part of the sovereign citizen movement. Yet he can't really define what that is, and how the facts make me a sovereign citizen. You never once heard me on any tape say that I'm a sovereign citizen. I'm not. I expatriated, yes. And that's a God-given right and a congressionally protected right. July 27, 1868, recognized by Congress. When I say we're at war, that's because there are some laws that have defined us as the enemy. Now that's open to interpretation, because all law is interpretation. My reading of it was that we were declared enemies of our nation in 1933 during the bankruptcy. And so when I say that we're at war, that's because I read the act, and that's what Congress said at that time. In my opinion. I have the right to opinions. I have the right to express those opinions. You may not like them. You may not believe them. But that's the great thing about this country under the Constitution. I have the right to say it. And you have the right to argue with me, and we can have a great time doing it. Doesn't mean we have to hate each other just because we have disagreements. We're all human. We're not all going to think alike. It's impossible. Now, the state keeps saying they've proven this and proven that, but so far we've seen no fact evidence of the intention to intimidate or coerce the public, the intention to influence a policy of government, the intention to affect conduct of government by intimidation or coercion, or the intent to retaliate against government for policy or conduct. Now, if someone's going to retaliate against them, why would they file a complaint in their court? I went to court, said, we have some problems here, let's fix this. Is that what a sovereign citizen does? Is that what a rational person does? Of course, a rational person goes to court and says, we have a problem, so let's adjudicate this matter. That's where you go. You go to court. You go to court. Now, this matter is actually still pending. The Attorney General of the state admitted that on Facebook earlier this year. This is still an open case that has not been concluded. I implore you to read it. It's very short. But you'll see the violations that have been set forth. And whether it's true or not, we have a right to set those forth. And that doesn't make me evil. It doesn't make me a bad guy. It means I have an opinion and I'm willing to say something about it. I wish there were more people in America that would stand up and say something. Our country would not be in the problems we're having now. These multiple weekly discussions from May to September, because they failed to want to bring any of the other ones up. They focus on one that was with a United States militia group, which, by the way, is protected by the Second Amendment to the Constitution for the United States of America. Militias are not unlawful or illegal. They're not a part of government, so maybe government doesn't like them. But every able-bodied person between 18 to 49, by definition, is part of the militia in this country. It's been that way since the founding of this country. So it's not a crime to talk to them. They're there to protect us. They're the last line of defense. That's why we have the Second Amendment. Protection from tyranny. The Founding Fathers were very smart. They were under a lot of pressure from Britain. Britain was basically acting like a terrorist. And so they fought a war and created this government, and they put these safeguards in place for a reason. Now, of course, those in power don't want you to see that, don't want you to believe that. Those safeguards are there. If you study history and law, you will see that every amendment there was there for a specific reason. And you can see the reasons today in this government that they've been put there. The first one is the right to freedom of speech. Now, I'm not sure how you can make it a crime to have freedom of speech when I've caused no harm to anybody or their property. But that's been done. You know, it is what it is. I still assert that I have the right to speak anything I want, as long as I'm not harming someone or their property. And I haven't seen words ever harm anyone. Once again, I've never called the governor. I've never called the legislature. I've never called Kanawha County sheriffs. I've never called the National Guard and threatened them in any way, shape, or form. These weekly calls, if you had listened to them and if they had played them in evidence or they were permitted in evidence, you would see that we went a progression of this is where some things went wrong. This is the law we found. Here's some case law we found where it went wrong. Then next week we would go to the next decade, and we would see where it's piled on and on and on until here we are now. So they're taking bits and pieces of a moment in time. Now what if we did that to any of you? Just went through your calls, just a moment in time. How many bad things would we find that maybe you regretted saying, maybe you regretted doing? That really wasn't that bad, but it sounded bad because we took it out of context. Okay, that's what's been done here by the state repeatedly yesterday. It's one call out of over 30, at least. I mean, I did hundreds of interviews, but 30, I think, roughly, were compiled onto that website for research and educational purposes. They fail to mention that on that website, we also publish these laws, these case laws, these codes, so that you can see what we saw. Now, you may not interpret it the same way as we did. That's fine. But we like to discuss things. And so the entire website that they failed to go over has much more information than just these calls. Just these calls. Now, these weekly discussions were meant to assist those that asked me to be there. They were looking at specific issues or specific problems in their area. And yes, they were all over this country, California, Nevada. And we don't have to accept it. We don't have to accept it. But I don't have to be convicted of a crime because I spoke out. They have failed to prove a threat in any way, shape, or form. Their star witness could not even stand up under his own complaint that he swore. He swore under oath to that complaint, and yet could not back his statements up. We saw it this morning. It's uncalled for. The fact that a man would lose his liberty over a complaint that is sworn that they cannot stand up to. They cannot back it up with any facts. Is that what we've come to in this country? That they can just come and take you? And just make things up? Because that's what that complaint is. It's made up. He didn't have the answers this morning. This morning was the time for the answers. He knew where he was coming this morning. He knew exactly where he was coming. He was here yesterday. So there's no excuse that, no, I don't have it. No, I don't remember. There's no excuse for that. Not when someone's liberty is at stake. I've lost time with my kids over this. And this is what we've come to, a trooper sworn under oath in a complaint and cannot back his complaint up. That's ridiculous. The fact that I've had to take time out of my life to defend against this ridiculousness is in itself ridiculous. Is that what we've come to in this country? This is America. It's supposed to be the land of the free, the home of the brave. How many of you are going to be brave and stand up to the state and tell them, no, we're not going to accept this? Just because someone spoke on a call. We have a duty to our Creator and our fellow brothers and sisters to leave that which we inherited from them in a better state than when we found it. And I can honestly say that when I turned 18 and I was given what we got in this country, that it has gone downhill since then. It has not gotten better. I did not leave it better off for my children at all. And I think you all can see that. It took years for me to acquire some of this knowledge of natural law and combine it with God's law to see the problems and to have the bravery to take it to the state of West Virginia and to put them to task for what we considered violations of their contract with us, which would be the Constitution for the United States of America and the Constitution of West Virginia. We offered full forgiveness to them in this complaint if they simply returned to the rule of law. That's all we asked for. We asked for no monetary damages for ourselves. We asked for a return to a rule of law. And that makes me a sovereign citizen, part of a sovereign citizen movement. As a matter of fact, let's look at the word sovereign and citizen. Sovereign is someone who is the authority, and a citizen is subject to an authority. So let's put those two words together. It doesn't make any sense. And yet they're running around in a complaint sworn under oath and using those terms and taking away people's right to freedom of liberty, movement. I have never called myself a sovereign citizen ever, or declared myself to be a part of any sovereign citizen movement. I am not a leader of any group or movement. I'm a man under God that simply talks to other people. I can't help it that they don't like that I talk to those in the military and militia. Those are the ones that came to me. I have no problem with the military. I hope you don't either. They've defended our country for hundreds of years. That's what they're there for. They're there to protect us from enemies foreign and domestic. Yes, we have foreign enemies. Yes, we have domestic enemies at this point in time in this country. We have both. And it is the military and militia's duty to protect us. So I will not apologize for talking to them on some call or offering them advice and support in anything they may want to do. Because they are us. And the people are the authority. We are the authority. We are the ultimate authority. We created the government. We created it, did we not? When we drew up the Constitution, they signed it. That means we created it. We're the boss. And yet it's been flipped. part of the thing that we would took them to court over. Is that wrong? Is that wrong? No. No. I'm a man of God, and I will continue sojourning through His creation. His creation. You can call it the state of West Virginia, you can call it the United States of America. He still created it. It's His. It's His. We only borrow it. We only borrow it. But we're supposed to be good stewards of it. We haven't been. Friends are 60s and 70s. I don't hang around people my age. I hang around the older generation. They have the morals and principles that I adhere to and that I enjoy, that I like, that I want to see perpetuated. I don't want to see harm caused, but I don't want to see our children suffer in the future either. What Gene, Phil, and I attempted to do in this complaint was simply returning to a government ruled by law. That's it. Nothing else. It's not a sovereign citizen movement in any way, shape, or form.